I did just have one more tidbit to say today. Unless I post an affirmation or like a 2-minute reading to get views, because I know that none of my long readings get views. But I have been seeing all this stuff about like Irish awareness and whatever. I don't even know. I'm half Irish. I'm half chock full of Irish with a little Scottish mixed in there. Really Scotch Irish, I guess, is my grandfather was Irish with some Scottish mixed in. Scotch Irish is actually a specific region of Ireland, but anyway, my grandmother's side is just completely Irish, so I very much connect with the Celtic stuff, the lore, that, you know, there's been Celtic women seers in my family in times past who like had ability to like see entities, and I have that, so I think that's pretty cool, but it's also terrifying when it happens. Also, there's just like a word for women who are Irish and intuitive, and I totally relate to that. My grandmother used to talk about fairies, and she literally believed in fairies. She was like a very smart woman, and she genuinely believed in fairies. We would go to gas stations or just actually anywhere where there was like a little patch of dirt. I just mentioned gas stations because we traveled a lot. She would like go on road trips, and she would say like, oh, do you see that like circle of dirt? It's like a perfect circle. That's where fairy stands. And I loved that like imagination in her, and that like I also actually think she literally believed in fairies. Like I think it's actually very common for Irish people to grow up being told lore about fairies. And that's really because, you know, we come from paganism, which I love that part of Ireland. Another interesting fact that most Irish people won't know is that there's this mythology that the first Irish inhabitant was actually from Spain. So actually, and genetically, Spanish and Irish people have a lot in common. And then there's like actually genetic evidence that may be true, that the first person was Spanish from like a long time ago. And then there's other stories about how the Irish people came about, and I feel like a lot of these posts are focusing on how horrible it's been for Irish people to have dealt with the potato famine, but I've been to therapists who have said that that's why I have lack consciousness, which was super helpful in the moment. But I actually like to think of it as more, it created an incredibly intuitive race, because if you think about it, the only people who survived the potato famine were the hyper vigilant and hyper anxious, which lends itself a lot to being psychic or intuitive. Because you're trying to stay one step ahead at all times. So I kind of think that the history of being Irish is a gift, and I embrace it. And I think of, you know, I know that there's like rage at the English, but I actually think that it's just sort of like would have happened no matter what, because Ireland is a tiny country, and that is what happens. Big countries take over tiny countries, unfortunately. And I think that I'm trying to take away some of the negativity and say, luck of the Irish to you.